And we thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of the Town Hall. I'm Kate Welshofer, and remember, you can always text us your ideas on a topic to cover to 716-849-2220. Our top story on the Town Hall tonight, the efforts by Starbucks locations to unionize. 130 Starbucks locations across 26 states have filed for union elections with the National Labor Relations Board. Today in Denver, employees were striking over issues about staffing and working conditions. Earlier this week, 3 more Western New York Starbucks voted yes to unionize after several months of delay. And joining us live is James Skretta, their barista at the Sheridan and Bailey Starbucks location. James, we're glad you're here on the Town Hall with us tonight. It's been a pretty big week with 3 more Starbucks locations in Western New York successfully voting now to unionize. What is your reaction to that news this week, and what can you tell us about this local effort going forward?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And just hearing you say that we have 3 more unionized Starbucks here in Buffalo, it brings so much joy to me and a real smile on my face. You know, you said to speak about it locally, but I have to say first that this is a massive victory for Starbucks workers nationwide. You know, that our organizing isn't just happening here in Buffalo, but our movements spread around the country like wildfire. And these wins here in Buffalo will definitely boost morale at all the other stores that are organizing. These wins here in Buffalo are ones that we fully expected, despite the intensity of the company's incredible anti-union campaign, which I'll be happy to talk about in a second. But what this does for us finally, after almost 6 months of having to wait, you know, it finally opens the door to bargaining with the company for a contract that's going to improve the lives of Starbucks workers. You know, we've organized to be met as equals who can have a say in how our workplace runs and have a say in the kind of benefits and compensation that we deserve, but currently aren't getting.
And we want to talk to you about that reaction from Starbucks, because we've heard publicly from local Starbucks employees that several members from the corporate Starbucks team have been visiting Western New York over the last few months. Is that something that you've experienced yourself personally? What can you tell us about that?
Oh yeah, I think several is an understatement. And please do tell me to stop or when I need to get cut off here, because I could literally talk all day about the kinds of things that Starbucks has been doing to try and prevent us from organizing. Just a few days after the first stores filed for elections here in Buffalo at the end of August, the president of Starbucks North America, Rossann Williams, flew to Buffalo herself to host what she called listening sessions that, according to her, supposedly had nothing to do with the union and were just a normal thing. But nobody's ever heard of these happening at Starbucks. So as the campaigns ramped up, the company sent no less than 100 different support managers, is what they called them, to the stores here in Buffalo. My store alone at the Sheridan and North Bailey location has had at least 12 different support managers since the beginning of October, when the company fired our manager over some spurious reasons. Really, our manager was let go because we were trying to organize. So these support managers were at the stores to conduct workplace surveillance, to intimidate and scare workers. One of my colleagues at the Camp Road store said that since the support managers arrived, he was never more than 10 feet from a manager while he was in the store working. And it just makes it impossible to have conversations with our coworkers. You know, we started then to have captive audience meetings that we were paid to attend, where the company would share really misleading information about the union, threaten our benefits and wages, suggest that we would lose the ability to transfer stores or that our managers wouldn't be able to work with us. Then they started suggesting that pro-union workers were bullying and harassing coworkers at the stores, which just couldn't be further from the truth of what the situation is actually like in our stores. Later, they started doing one-on-one meetings because in the captive audience meetings, it was too easy to debunk all of their misinformation in front of all our coworkers. So they just moved to one-on-one meetings in which they would explicitly tell us, we respect your right to organize and you should make your own decision and you should get the facts, but we want you to vote and we want you to vote no. It gets far more serious. You know, 7 workers in Memphis that are trying to organize, they were fired on Martin Luther King Day, of all days, in Memphis, where MLK was murdered rallying support for striking sanitation workers. Myself, I was put on a final written warning for using profanity in the back of the house. I've never been written up before, but somehow using profanity in the back of the house, when I hear managers use profanity on the floor all the time, put me one step away from being terminated. Far more seriously, though, 2 workers in Buffalo have been fired. Cassie Fleischer at the Elmwood store, who had her hours and availability stripped from her, and Danny Rojas at my store as well. So, in short, Starbucks has made these union elections not about whether we want a union or not, but whether we want to keep our jobs and keep our hours and keep our benefits.
James, you mentioned before, James, how this is something that really is nationwide here. Are there conversations that are going on with people in Buffalo? You'd imagine with it being successful here, people would want to know, well, how did you do it and what was your experience? Are those conversations going on with other Starbucks employees nationwide?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're pointing out something that's really critical about how this has exploded. Right now, we have 133 stores nationwide that have filed petitions to have elections. 20 more votes are already scheduled and will be counted soon. Of relevance to the Buffalo and Western New York listeners, the Delaware Chippewa store downtown will have its votes counted on April 7th, along with 2 stores in Rochester. And then the following day, April 8th, we'll have vote counts for the 3 Starbucks stores in Ithaca, all 3 Starbuckses that are in Ithaca. What's really special about how we're organizing is that it's a partner-to-partner organizing movement. There aren't union representatives or people from the union coming in and organizing us. It's partners talking to other partners at stores around the country. I've had a lot of calls with partners in California recently. The Mesa store that won its vote in Mesa, Arizona, Michelle Eisen from the Elmwood store here spent a lot of time helping them and coaching them. In the Boston area, it's all entirely worker-led with, a few people here in Buffalo giving them some advice, but the workers are just doing it themselves, and it's really incredible.
It's an important conversation. We do have to leave it there, but we so appreciate your perspective. To learn more about what's happening, we've been talking with James Skretta from the Sheridan Drive Starbucks, which just voted to join the Starbucks Union. James, thanks again for being here tonight.
Oh, so glad to be here and talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we did ask, by the way, for a member of the corporate Starbucks team to join us on the town hall. They sent us the following statement instead, saying in part, "We are listening and learning from the partners in these stores, as we always do across the country. Starbucks' success, past, present, and future, is built on how we partner together, always with our mission and values at our core."